it's Constance Carter, and I am live. I know I don't look the same. What happened? I got a little hair. So I wanted to talk to you today because I've had questions around investing, and so the last Ask Constance live, we talked about 3 things of how to grow your money and not blow your money. One thing we talked about was cutting the fat. Okay, what are ways that you can cut the fat in your everyday life? So utility bills, you can cut those out. Instead of having cable, get Netflix or get Hulu or something like that. And those are going to be ways that you could actually trim the fat. Excuse me. The next step was create multiple revenue streams. And so I believe that you should have numerous revenue streams. The Bible talks about having 7 revenue streams. And so I'm a little short. I got a few. I got about 5, but I'm a little short. And so there's a couple more revenue streams that I'm looking at. Okay. And then the third thing is how do you grow your money from those little things? And so I just want to kind of give it to you on a very basic level because, I invest, and some of the investments are, a little sophisticated and some are very basic. But I think one of the first things you need to do is figure out how to trim the fat in your everyday life. And again, we talked about that a couple of weeks ago. But now let's talk about, okay, now I have a little bit of cash. I got $10,000, $15,000, $20,000. I got a little bit of cash and I don't know what to do. I got cash. I got bills. Should I buy some investment? Should I invest in some things, or should I pay off my bills? Okay, so I want you guys to chime in and let me know what your thoughts are around that. You got a little bit of money. You have a significant amount of money, and let's just make it a nice round number like $10,000. You have $10,000. You have $10,000 worth of bills, and you have an investment opportunity that's going to require $10,000. What should you do? Okay, so I want to ask you that question. So I want you to chime in. You got $10,000. You got $10,000 worth of bills, and there's a $10,000 investment that you would like to make. What's the first thing that you're going to do? And I know that there's some folks logged on. I want to get your interaction. What is your thought? What do you think you should do? If you got $10,000, you got $10,000 worth of debt, and then you want to invest $10,000. Thank you, Frederick. So Frederick, you just mentioned this. This is on time. This is an on-time video. So you tell me, you got $10,000, you got $10,000 worth of bills, and now you have and then you have $10,000 investment you want to invest in. What are you going to do? I need some feedback. You're going to invest it. Okay, Damon Harris said he's going to invest it. Okay, that's good. So why would you invest it rather than pay off your bills, Damon? I want to know, why should you invest this money instead of paying off your bills? Or can anybody tell me why they would want to invest it rather than paying off their bills? Why would you invest? So you got this debt and you got this money. Why would you? Okay, Chris said he would bring the debt down. Okay, the bills will always be there, but I have a tendency to pay bills because you're a very responsible person. Okay, so you rather pay your bill. You typically pay your bills, and you're saying you always have bills, but you think investing may be the better thing to do. And then James said investing will grow faster. So then I'm going to ask you a question. Okay, so we have a broad spectrum. Some folks said that they will pay the bills. Some folks said they will pay a little bit of each, and then some people said that they will invest. Now I'm asking you, if you have $10,000, you have a $10,000 investment, and then you have $10,000 worth of bills. Okay, so let's talk about it. So you have $10,000. The first thing I want to know is, do you have the tolerance to lose the money in the event that it doesn't grow? Because James said that he would take the money and he would invest it. So say you invest it and now that money is gone. That $10,000 is gone, and now you still have this debt. You no longer have the $10,000. Do you have the tolerance to lose that type of money? How would that make you feel? Okay. Depends on the investment. Long-term plans, debt can always be refinanced. Certain bills may not affect my credit anyway. Thank you, Damon. That is absolutely on par with what I'm talking about. So but back to my question, do you have the tolerance to lose the money if the investment didn't pan out? That's something that you really need to consider, okay? So what'll happen if you paid the debt and then that investment made a bunch of money and you missed out on it? how would that make you feel? So you got to think about these things. So if you had the money, but you paid the debt off, and then you missed out on the opportunity. So I can say for me, because and if you don't know anything about my history, I made a bunch of money at a young age, and then I spent so much money, I had to end up filing bankruptcy, right? And so when the opportunity came, I had all this money that had went through my hands, hundreds of thousands of dollars, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars that had went through my hands that I had nothing to show for it. And when the time came for me to be able to invest, you know, when the market has shifted, when the prices were at a fire sale, which is what happens a lot of times. We'll buy when the market is high, and then when the market is low, there's nothing that we have. And so what ended up happening was I was like, geez, I had all these hundreds of thousands of dollars that went through my hands, and now I don't even have the ability. My credit is jacked up, and I don't have the ability to buy when it's time to buy. And then all these people were coming to me at a time, the people who kind of held off and said, and they were just buying. And now, you know, they're buying 5, 6, 7 properties. And now each of those properties have $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 in equity. And so you have to think about, if you ended up paying off your bills and then you don't have any money left over as leverage, what's going to happen? So one of the things, again, it all depends on, I think, your investment tolerance. For me, I have bills even today. Right. So I make a lot of money, and I also have bills. And a couple of months ago, I said, you know, I could pay off all these bills, but, you know, it's only, a certain amount of money a month. Had I paid off those bills, when an opportunity came up a few months ago, I had an opportunity to invest in a marijuana dispensary. I won't say it too loud, but I had an opportunity to invest in a marijuana dispensary. Had I paid off those bills, I wouldn't have had the cash to be able to do that. Okay. But what if that investment goes sour? And what if that investment goes south and I don't make any money on it? Do I have the ability to pay, to still live and be okay beyond that? And so those are the things that you have to consider. So I would say do this. You should use the rule, I call it the rule of the thirds. Okay. And I think Chris mentioned, he talked about it. Chris talked about I would pay off a little, and then I would invest a little, right? I would pay off some debt, and then I would invest a little. So I would think that you should set your sight on an investment vehicle that may not require all of your money. So maybe invest in something smaller. So you have $10,000. I would say take a third of that money and put it away for yourself, because you need that cushion. You should try to at least have 6 months worth of a cushion. 3 months minimum. But if something were to happen, you lose your job, you break a leg, you can't work, or whatever, there's some type of tragedy, you need to have some type of rainy day fund. So don't ever put all your money away on an investment. So take a third of that money and you put it away just for yourself. You take the other third of your money and then you find an investment vehicle. Maybe you might not be able to invest in that $10,000 investment, but perhaps you can find a smaller micro investment that you can invest in. And then the other third, you pay off that debt. So you start working on that debt as well. And then, so what are some kind of micro investments that you can invest in? There are tons of them. So don't just take your money and put it in your savings. Your savings, a CD, all of those things, they ain't gonna make you no money. A savings account is going to yield you less than 1% of a return on your investment. These banks gotta hustle. These banks be hustling. They take your money and they're investing, and they're making more money on your money while your money is sitting in the bank. So I want you to take your money and start investing in some small vehicles. There's a couple of them that I looked at, and I haven't quite invested in these. I do some day trading and I do some stock option purchases, and that is a really great way to make a lot of money. But then there's also high risk. So those are high risk investments, and I'm talking about low risk investments. So stash, that's where you can buy an EFT or a piece of a stock. And you can diversify your portfolio. It's called stash, and you could do it with as little as $10, $15, $20, $50, $100. So those are some micro investments. Now, the return on the investment may not be that huge, but of course, remember, little investment, little return. Big investment, the potential of a huge return. Also, if you have a minimal amount of investment, you minimize your risk. Okay. Acorn is when you purchase everyday products, it basically rounds up. Say you every day you're spending $18, $15, whatever. It'll round it up to the nearest dollar. So it'll take the remainder of that money and it'll invest in different things for you. A lot of these young kids are doing it. Glenda was just telling me that her daughter is doing that type of. She has an Acorn account, so that's a really awesome way to at least start. Okay. And then Lending Club is something that I know that several people that I know do it, and it's basically a bunch of investors pulling together to lend money to potential borrowers, and so you get a return on your investment based upon the interest and the fees that they pay. So you could do it with as little as $100. You take $100 and you say, okay, I'm going to put it in, I'm going to lend to 4 different people through this investment. And so you're going to get a return on that investment. And it's going to be a pool of investors that are putting together in order to lend to a partner. Not a bad idea. And then, of course, 401k is probably the safest. And if you have an employer that's going to match, then that's going to be you're going to make about 10% return on your investment. But again, that's a long-term investment. Okay. And the other thing is I want to tell you to invest in yourself. Easy, but invest in books, invest in things that are going to grow your knowledge so that you can go out there and make more money. Again, my last Ask Constance, I talked about different revenue streams. Like you can rent a friend, you can do Uber. There's all kinds of things where you can bring in more money so that you can start investing. But one of the things, the main thing I really want you to know, or I want to impart on you, is that only take a major risk if you can afford to lose the risk. Okay, if you can afford to lose it all, only take that risk. Some of the things that I personally invest in, again, like I said, I did a marijuana dispensary a few months ago. I flip houses. So those are, and those types of return on investments, 100% return on investment sometimes. Sometimes I make 50%. I mean, it's much better than playing the stock market. It's much better than putting money in your savings. And the return is awesome. You just have to be able to find the deal. Another thing I do is, again, I do day trading and I purchase stock options. And, we purchase at 1 o'clock every day, right before 1 o'clock, right before the market closes. And in the morning, at 6 o'clock in the morning, because the market opens at 6 Pacific time, 9 Eastern, we're seeing the money in the bank. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And if you're interested in that type of investing, inbox me and I can introduce you to it, into the group that we do it with. But there's so many opportunities, but you also have to be willing to lose some, because you can win a lot and you can lose a lot depending on your investment. I was just telling a class last week that the gentleman that I invest, so I hadn't done my day trading in about a few weeks, maybe a month. And the gentleman that I normally invest with, he was blowing me up. I think it was last Tuesday or Wednesday, called me about 7 times. I didn't answer the phone, as I sometimes don't. Did not answer the phone. And he said, hey, I got a line on Chipotle. Let's invest. And I didn't answer my phone. And so the next day he said, Constance, you don't even want to know how much money I made yesterday on Chipotle. I said, how much? He said, I put in $3,000 and I made $33,000 today. I was like, okay, I gotta go. Bye. But it's that type of return on an investment. Now, had he been wrong in the way we invest, had he been wrong, that could have been $3,000 that I lost. But he put $3,000 in that day, and he was trying to tell me to invest, but I didn't answer the phone. He called me 7 times. I didn't answer the phone, and he made $33,000, and I didn't. And that was in one day. So there are Frederick asked, what are the trustworthy investment groups that I can put 10K into flipping? Into flipping property, stock, what are we talking about, Frederick? Are you talking about flipping property? It all depends. The ways that I purchase my investment or my flip properties is I buy them through wholesalers. And I don't know if you guys know what a wholesaler is, but all the properties I bought this year and last year, except for one, was through a wholesaler. The last one was an REO. It was a foreclosure. And basically what a wholesaler is they'll go out and they'll find a property. So say that there's an abandoned property. If you ever seen those signs that say, we buy ugly homes, that's what I buy. And so they'll go out and they'll get the deal. And if Zaretha's logged on, she knows because she owns she owns a wholesale business. But they'll go out and they'll get the home, they'll do the deal, right? So they'll find the house and they'll tell this seller, I'll pay you $50,000 for this house. Sight unseen, you can leave everything there. And then they know, and then they'll have an investor like me that'll come in and say, oh my God, this house has a potential to make $150,000. So then I'll come in and I'll buy it from that middle guy for, say $70,000, $80,000. And the middle guy will make a deal with me and he'll make a deal with the seller. I come in and I buy the whole thing out. So say I buy the whole thing out for $70,000. The middle guy hasn't put any money in. He just made the deal with the initial guy, and I buy the house for $70,000 and I turn around and buy it for $150,000. That's how some of it's worked. That's how my wholesale deals have worked. But I've done that, and I have my last deal I did, I think it was back in April this year. So when we moved and stuff like that, I hadn't done any more flip properties this year. But that's typically how I've been doing my flips. So I flip, I do stock, and I just invested in a marijuana dispensary. The city of Stockton has, they allotted for 4 dispensaries in the city. And I invested in the 3rd of the 4th. And it should be opening within the next couple of weeks, and we're excited about it. So I'm going to go to the questions, if anybody has any questions on anything. Let's see, be able to lose that 10K. Yes. So going back to what Chris said, like I said earlier, if you're going to make take that risk, you have to make sure that you're willing to lose it all. My thing is, when I take a risk, when I invest in something, I have to know that I'm going to be able to make that money back. That ain't money that I'm going to have to depend on. And so I don't want you to gamble all your money away. Make sure that you have a set amount that you put aside that you're willing to risk on the investment. Don't bet the farm. Don't bet the house. Don't bet your wife's jewelry. Make sure that if you have that loss, that there's nothing going to happen to you. So for me, investing this, in even the dispensary, which was quite a bit of, which was a lot of money, but for me, I could still survive. Now, it took a lot out of my personal savings, but the good thing is, had I paid my bills off, because I still have bills, had I paid my bills off, I would not have had the ability to invest in this dispensary. So that's how I'm looking at it. So for me, I still got bills, right? And I still have bills, and I still have a reserve, but I still was able to take this money, this large amount of money, and I was able to invest in this dispensary, and it's not hurting my family. I ain't gonna lose my house. I ain't gonna lose my business. So that's what you need to keep in mind when you're making investments, okay? We lose money every day by not trying to create wealth. We get left behind by not taking the risk. Might as well go for it. Thank you, Damon. You're absolutely right. So Damon said we lose money every day by not taking a risk. And so let's just talk about it just on a racial perspective. And I've read a few articles about the wealth gap between the African American and, say, the majority, right? So our wealth is, not even a fraction of what the white majority is as African Americans. We have no wealth, and most of our wealth is in real estate, right? And real estate is cool, but if you're not in an appreciating market, then it's not an asset, it's a liability. And so if you only have a house and you have nothing else, then you have no real wealth. And so one of the things that I know that as African Americans we're afraid to do is we're afraid to take risks. We don't take risks. We're not going to put any money out. We don't invest in stock. And you have to understand, whatever investments that you have, it may be a long-term investment. Okay, so you have to be willing to put that money out there, not see it anymore. Don't worry about it, and it might be a year, 3 years, 5 years. Okay, I'm going to tell you about my son. My son is 15 years old, and I know I've said this before, so if you heard me tell the story before, excuse me. But so I have 4 children, my daughter and my 3 boys, and I made them take this stock investment course. And I said, if you take this stock investment course, I'm going to give you each $1,000 so that you can start investing. So my daughter, she was like, if it ain't got nothing to do with Snapchat or Twitter, I ain't interested. And so she's too busy on her phone. She didn't care. My youngest son, he was like, he's 9 now. He's about 7.5 at the time. He has the attention span of a gnat. He was like, I want to do it, mommy, I want to do it, but he didn't do it. And then my 2 middle sons, Warren, who was 11.5 at the time, he's 13 now, and Kyron, They both said that they wanted to do it. Kyron took him a couple weeks. I gave him a week to do it. Kyron took him a couple weeks, 2 or 3 weeks. Warren was so excited that he did it that day. So he finished the class. He knew what equity was. He knew what leverage. He knew all the terms. And then I gave him the $1,000, and he started investing in stock through Ameritrade. Today, the boy has $5,000 in his Ameritrade account, okay, from investing in stock. So he took this $1,000 investment, took him about a year and a half, but now he has $1,000 in his investment portfolio. And the only thing the boy is doing is he's researching companies. He's looking at different companies to buy. He's buying low, selling high, all of those things. And he's able to do it from his phone. Amazing. And it really just takes a little bit of research. One of the things I do know about, African Americans as a whole is we're afraid to take risks. Our risks are very minimal. And like Damon said, hey, you taking risk every day by not investing, you might as well go for it. He's absolutely right. So I'm so glad that you said that, because that is absolutely the truth. Sarah says she's investing in a marijuana pharmaceutical company. That's what I'm talking about. Are you, Tara, are you investing in stock, or are you do you have ownership in the company, like other types of ownership, or is it stock shares? Let me know. And then third, money management rule. Yes. The rule of the third, and like I said, so going back to what I said, make sure that you have the ability to take that risk in the event that something happened. Take 1/3, pay it to yourself. 1/3, pay your bills, and invest another third. I would highly recommend that. Make sure that whatever investments you make is not going to affect your bottom line. And then, yep, you're right, Tanasha. Compound interest. You could transfer some money that access to your kids. And then I do have others. So as Frederick said, he doesn't have that much cash. So some of the things, and I know Frederick, you're already a homeowner. I always advise homeowners. So if you're buying a house for the first time, so say you're a first-time home buyer, I always advise, if you can, do not buy with your spouse. The reason why I say don't buy with your spouse is because you can buy this first home with your spouse, right? And the house is in his name, and you can take advantage of some benefits to being an owner-occupied buyer. And then when you're ready to buy another house, you buy it in your name, and you can take the advantage of some benefits of being a owner-occupied buyer. So the down payment is very limited, right? It's very minimal. You might not be an owner-occupant over here, but you're an owner-occupant over there. So now you have more property, you can come more ground. So now you've bought this house with 3.5% down as your own property, and then you stay in it for maybe 6 months, and then you take it and you invest. You could take the leverage, and you could start investing in other things. Now you've grown your money. You understand? So you may not have the money right now. I don't know if you're both on your home that you own, but sometimes it's not always the best thing to go half with your spouse and do everything in both of you and your spouse's name. So I know for me, when I buy my properties, I'll buy all properties in one person's name, and then I'll start doing some more investing in the other person's name. And let me tell you what happened. So remember when I said I filed bankruptcy in 2017 or 2018, 9 or 10 years ago. I had all these properties. So I was making all this money. I was buying all these houses, and then the market dropped. So I said 2017. I mean 2007. And so then the market fell, bottom fell from under me, and I had all these properties that were upside down. One of my properties was like, I owed $500, and I short sold it for $265. I owed $565 short, so I was $300,000 upside down in that one. I was $200,000 or $300,000 upside down in that one. I was $200,000 upside down on another one, and all of them were in my name, right? So what was I able to do? I was able to buy my new house, because we were good. We were saving my husband so that he could buy some more property in his name. Well, we never got around to it because I was buying it all in my name. And then when the market fell and my credit got jacked up, what did I do? Bought the new house in his name. So now we're both not tied, and should something happen, we were able to use that leverage we had to buy the house that we're in now. And I'm just being transparent with you. It's what happened to me, and it's the reason why I teach this to my clients, because I'm like, hey, you never know what could happen. So if you can afford to buy the house by yourself, why not? Okay. Donnell said, if I'm new to investing, where should I start? Good question, Donnell. And you know what? I actually just talked about it. So it depends on what type of investing you want to do. If you want to do some small investing, again, I talked about stash. where you're buying a fraction of a share. Say you only have a couple $100. Acorn, Lending Club, you could start investing in Lending Club. And then there was another one that I talked about last week. I have some notes of what I talked about last week. Fundrise is a real estate investment platform as low as $500, and you start investing in different real estate projects. There actually is, I was looking, I don't know if you guys heard of J Real Estate, but he has this thing, I think it's like a Black Wall Street thing. Do you guys remember, anybody ever heard the story of Black Wall Street? They're doing some things where they're trying to pull a bunch of investors to invest as little as $500 in their real estate projects. So I thought that was a great idea, but it looks like, because I looked at it the other day, it looks like they didn't have anything. Whatever investment that they were making in, I think, August has already passed. And then I think they're going to come up with some other investment opportunities. And then what other? Fundrise, Charles Schwab, you can get a Charles Schwab account. Start with an Ameritrade or an E-Trade account. That's what my son does. And that's where he buys the stock. Again, he started with $1,000 and he started buying and selling shares. So those are places that you can start, Donnell. Not sure if you already said it, but how can I invest in the dispensary? So the dispensary, this particular one, I think they're closed for investors. The one that's coming up in Stockton, and you need a minimum of a six-figure investment to invest in that investment opportunity. So, you know, I'm not sure if they have anything that has a lower, or, you know, I don't know where they are with that, and I believe that opportunity is no longer available. All right, Tia, and then should investors form an LLC when flipping a house? Okay, that's a great question. So, I invest. So my first flip, I invested with a partner and we formed an LLC. I didn't like that because there's tax consequences when you invest in an LLC. But when you invest and when you form a corporation, there's not the same tax liabilities, and we could talk offline about that. So I wouldn't personally do it in the LLC. After we did that first flip, we had closed the LLC because of the tax ramifications. So then we started flipping, or I started flipping in the name of the corporation, which was a lot better for me. 1,700 liquid black wealth versus 110K. Ooh, so Chris basically said black wealth is about $1,700 in this country versus the average white household, or the average wealth in the white household is about $110,000. That's huge. And then if you go beyond that, you know, if you talk about the circulation of a black dollar, black people have $1.1 trillion in investment power, and only 2 cents is spent within the black community. So think about that too. Think about how you spend your money. I want my son to take the course. Okay, it's called the one that my kids took, and tell his friend Kyle to take it to his cousin. But it was through Dr. Boyce Watkins, and it was a stock investment class that he had for children. So if you want my password, my login, I'll actually go ahead and get it to you, Donnell. We have also a little wealth to risk. Yeah, because we don't have any wealth. You just said it was 1,700 in the black community, which is probably on par. What is as soon as you can take the leverage from your home and start investing? That's a great question. It depends on how quickly your equity grows. So in California, you know, equity grows pretty rapidly. I would look at, 6 months to 12 months before here in California, before you could take the leverage or the equity from your property to start investing. And it's not a bad idea at all. So actually you're on the right track, Sharice, where you're talking about pulling the leverage or the equity from your property to start investing. So I would say 6 months. Look at it, start looking in about 6 months and seeing where you are in terms of your equity. And if it's not there yet, look at 12 months. But in 12 months, I've seen people make $100,000 easily. It depends on where you buy and all of those things. All right, Tara, she said she's going to call me about forming a corporation. Frederick, yes. Jay Morrison, Real Estate, Mr. Real Estate, I believe it is. He has that Black Wall Street investment. And I looked at it like, I'd be up at the crack of dawn. So it was like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I had seen an ad on Facebook, and I went to the website, and I seen that they had an investment, but it was called like the Black Wall Street or the Tulsa something, but it was about investing in the Black Wall Street. So it seemed very, very, very interesting to me. And then Tanasha, Tia, check your DM for some dispensary opportunities in education. Ooh, thank you, Tanasha. Thank you for sharing the wealth. Can I get some of that too? I want to diversify my portfolio. Girl, I need some more investments to invest in. So can you DM me too? Thank you. So I think if no one has any more questions, I don't want to keep you too long. We're right about 30 minutes. Thank you, Sack Black Biz Videos. Thank you all. If you have any other questions, be sure to DM me. Again, just to recap kind of what I said, if you are going to invest, make sure you just have the money in the event that you lose. That's all. And the rule of the third: save 1/3 or invest 1/3. Save or pay your bills and then invest. But you always want to have your own rainy day fund in the event that something happens. Okay. So thank you all for joining me, and share this video to all your network. And if you have any questions, please feel free to inbox me. I'm more than happy to share any information that I have with you on investing in real estate, investing in stock. And that's about it. Thank you guys for joining me. Peace.